That makes it so easy for me now.
It slipped! Hey guys, I'm Dan.
I'm Bob.
I'm West.
I'm Mike.
And this is the Board Game Rundown. Today we're looking at Black Mold by Terrible Games on Kickstarter right now by John DeCampos. Before we go into the game too much though, we have a guest to introduce. You guys have never seen West on our channel before. Hey West, who are you?
Hi, my name is West Todd. I'm also AKA known as the Mingo from Quackalope. I actually live in the same area as these guys, so I'm excited to be here today and got to play Black Mold.
Thanks. I hope you had a good time.
I had a great time, especially
so-
killing Michael.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
So-
Did not see that coming. Did not see that coming.
So thanks for the intro, Mike. Everyone, say hello to West for us. Mike, now your intro, that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to say, is can you give us a bit of a rundown of the game?
Of course. So this is a 20 to 90 minute survival horror co-op till it's not game where we are traversing subterranean tunnels trying to escape a prison, avoid fungal thralls that spawn, and get to the exit. There's one floor per player. By the time we get to the last staircase, we have exited the prison compound, and then different win conditions kick in. If multiple people get out, it's whoever's holding the most nuggets in their inventory, or one survivor, they win by themselves. But there's items that can even change those in-game mechanics that makes it super interesting. So real quick, we're going to go kind of over how the turn structure works of this game, and then we'll talk about our thoughts on it.
Okay.
So the way this game works, this is actually you hold your breath, and that is how long your turn lasts. So physically hold your breath, and then you're going to start working your way through these tunnels. Some people can do that longer than others, and that is why they did actually include a sand timer, which is in the box. The other box, apparently. So if anybody has any breathing issues, they don't get an unfair handicap. So sand timer included, hold your breath, and what you're doing on your turn to traverse through this compound, you're going to start at the entrance. You're going to flip one of these tiles over, and it's going to tell you the search total and the traverse total. That means you have to draw from your individual decision deck, and I draw 2 confusion cards right away. I have to draw these cards and get these neural sequences to line up. I can only draw the number that shows on the tile there. So I'm only allowed to have 2 exposed at a time. I've already got confusion in my deck. There we go. I succeeded. So if that was my first location, I'd move into there, then I can move out and I'd reveal another one. You can also draw a plot card when you go into a location.
A new location.
A new location. It could be one of these with the hands on it, which has sort of cryptic writing, which may or may not do something for you. It may spawn a thrall, which puts one of these bad boys right on your location. He instantly rolls 8 damage dice, and he's going to thwack you for each spore that he rolls. Or it could be one of these other sort of event cards, which gives you a secret yes or no consequence that you don't necessarily know about.
Always choose yes.
We found choosing yes tended to be helpful, but not always. So you can also search. So if you're in an area, you're trying to accumulate item cards that allow you to craft. And there's a nifty little player aid on here that shows you what all the different items are, what they do, what they craft. So you start your turn by actually getting the opportunity to heal, craft things, equip items, then you inhale, then you start traversing the compound, searching, and then when you actually exhale, then you get another opportunity to equip your items, craft items, or even trade with other players, which is interesting. So you continue to do that until you get all the way through to the very exit, unless everybody dies, of course, which is definitely possible. It can be a difficult game.
Yeah.
I understand you've had some games where people got out.
Yeah, the last game we played, we had one person got to leave. It was right at the very end. They basically tripped out of the exit. So it was an interesting experience. When our first level here, we had every single room had a thrall on it. It was nearly impossible to get through the whole thing. Amazingly, we found a safe room at just the right time. So we were able to make it through, and then the rest of the rooms weren't quite so bad.
Yeah, so a little bit more about these decision decks. Everybody has a completely different decision deck. So these are all slightly different, but they all have these neural sequences that we're trying to line up equal to the traverse number on the card. But yeah, there's a pretty big item deck. We've got what's called the looming box. So on a player's turn, you just put that box in front of them. There's a huge item deck full of bones and ways to craft torches to keep these thralls from not spawning in your location. You can craft fires that will keep them from spawning. And there's a pretty big plot card deck. They say that's optional, but I think it makes the game a lot more fun to use the plot deck personally.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating atmospheric thing. Anything that does atmospheric pros to this game, I think that's what the game is for. So I suggest doing that.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you're moving along, you continue to draw these spore damages that gets added to your player card, and obviously, if you get all the way to the end, you dead. And everybody has a slightly kind of different death method as well. Some people are just dead. That was the guy I was, and that's why they killed me. Other players can actually come back as a thrall, which is the other side of the card, and that means they get to chase the other players and attack them, which is kind of fun. Yeah, so lots of different replayability with the different, kind of players that you have. They all have they all have completely different player cards. And, yeah, so that's kind of the basic rundown of how the game plays.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to actually ask you a question in the middle of this preview. You wanted to do a live turn. Did you still want to do that?
Probably not.
Okay.
I could. If you want me to do a live turn, the problem is I am bad at this sequencing part.
I don't think bad is the right terminology you would use at that, but I think your audience probably really wants to see you try.
Yes.
So I think you really should.
And you should start here.
Start there. Am I going through a safe room?
With a 5. Yeah.
All right, somebody's got to pull my deck out then. All right.
Yeah, give them some cards.
So, am I starting with confusion in my deck?
Yeah, probably a max.
Gosh,
I mean,
dang it.
You
Probably
start
confused.
from a state of confusion, so I think overall that's probably the right option for you.
Okay, guys, so we have things set up now for Mike to take a turn. This is not how it will actually look up. As Mike said, there is a looming box thing that's supposed to make everything easier. But for now, he just has stuff in front of him to make it easy for you guys to see. But Mike's going to kind of just go through a turn as if he had started on that location. And Bob is going to kind of talk about what Mike's doing. But, of course, he'll have to make that up as Mike is changing his decisions. So
Okay, so I'm on a space that requires 5 decision cards sequenced to move out and 3 to search. So what I would do on my turn is search there first.
So how do you determine what?
So you automatically will use 2 dice plus the unrevealed grit that you have, which is the sweat droplet. So that would be a total of 5 dice to search. So I have to hold my breath to start the search and the traverse. So here we go. Everybody gets to make fun of my decision deck sequencing, and that's why we're doing this.
So
It's going to
bad.
be great.
I can also point out while he's starting that if you roll a spore, it locks up your dice.
Correct.
So
Otherwise, you can keep
you can
rolling.
continue
Anything
rolling.
else, you can keep rolling.
Yep. All right, Mike. 1, 2. I need one more. Nope. 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 There it is.
it
Mike
is.
gets an
Great.
item. You have the deck. There it
These
is.
are secret items that you can
Technically,
use
yes.
for crafting.
Nope, you got traverse first.
You got to do the traverse
5.
of 5 first.
1, 2.
That's
3,
why we made Mike
4,
do it.
5. He's not so good at it. You need another one.
All right. One more card.
There
Hey,
you go.
you got it. All right.
There you go.
So now you got
That-
3 to traverse or 4 to search.
You could search with 5. No,
but you get a plot card.
Going for the traverse.
Yep. Plot card.
Plot card when you
comes up.
reveal a new tile. New card.
Oh, and it's one of the cards that actually has
Ooh.
the lots of information on it.
It does.
You can
But
decide
nothing
whether
for
or
him,
not
I
you wanna do
guess. So
something
he's
with it.
trying to traverse again. Nope. No, he probably could have had that one, but he messed it up.
There you go.
3
3 and you're out. So
3 and you're out. So, yep, here you go.
Next.
You get another plot card. Give him another search card there.
Turn
he got a
ends.
plot card. All right, so he got a little plot card there, so he's going to move into the next area. He is going to read his little plot card and do what it says. And choose yes.
Oh, yeah. So just for fun.
Yeah, let's show him the atmosphere.
This is a loaded question, so how fitting. Your eerie solitude is interrupted, not by a thrall, but by a crying prisoner. You follow the bellowing moans to find a young woman, half her body consumed by the black mold. She locks eyes with yours and pleads, "Please, Kill me! You can tell she is not long for this world. If nature runs its course, you may meet her again as a thrall. Wincing in pain, she gestures towards a gray, stained pillow on a nearby bunk. Do you suffocate her?
I always say yes.
Well, we're going to suffocate her with a pillow.
Yeah, thematic.
You smother her to death. It doesn't take long. As life leaves her body, you see her hands slowly unclench to reveal a coveted item. Draw an additional contraband card at random.
Ooh.
Nice.
Okay.
Contraband cards would be the things that you took with you into the jail that
Right.
you start your turn with. And those are always pretty powerful.
They are.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
so
almost asymmetric powers.
yeah, they
Yeah.
have chosen ones, but as you play the game more, you can decide who gets what, and they all have pretty cool effects to them.
And then I just wanted to show off this card really quick from the top down. This is the card he drew that he discarded. So these plot cards are kind of just time wasters, and it's supposed to be thematically you kind of losing your mind, you're hearing voices. But some things hidden in here are actually useful. So you can see things in here that just say like, got to escape / kill, just keep moving, just like thoughts going through your head. But sometimes on here it'll say heal one or draw one card. And so the idea is, do you just ignore these psychotic thoughts, or do you actually just sit and focus, and you might get something out of this for wasting your time while holding your breath? It's a very thematic part of the game.
Yep.
But yeah, that is a quick example of Mike taking a turn, not necessarily you taking.
Not effectively, I might add, but
That's
that
not
is
good.
an example
You made it
turn.
through 2. You did pretty good. I
there
think
we
that's
go.
just not bad.
Not bad. I still had plenty of breath. So had I not revealed a event plot card, I would have
Coulda
kept
kept
moving
going.
probably. So also worth noting. So this type of tile here, this is what they call a germinated area. If you enter it, you gain spore damage. If you end a turn there, you gain spore damage. And if you leave that area, you gain spore damage. So these suck to reveal because
not
they
so good.
gobble up your health real quick. And then these are just your typical mold tunnels that if you end your turn on that area, then you'll add more spore damage to your card.
Unless you got one of those.
Yeah, unless you got the opportunity to craft one of those shawls.
It's like a face mask. You find a couple pieces of cloth, tie them together, and it keeps you from taking that 1 damage every turn, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. So usually on our show, we would have a component section, a final thought section, a rating section, all that. This is just a Kickstarter preview. None of that is necessary, especially for components. A lot of this could change. You know, that's the nature of Kickstarter. We've already heard about some rules changing from the designers, some
Icons
artwork
changing.
and icons, and some we even heard the insert might change slightly to make things a little bit easier to, again, since it wants you to do everything out of that box, having that as streamlined and simple as possible is going to be important. So instead, we're just going to have kind of an open discussion about the game and how we feel that it plays through and everything like that, and what we think you guys might like about the game. So anyone just want to kind of butt in and talk about what they think about the experience we got here?
I can start if you'd like. I really enjoy the mechanic of holding your breath. I think it's really unique. I don't know of any other game that requires you to do that. Or requires may be the wrong word.
Right.
But I think it's a really interesting concept. I think it really puts you in the mood to play, and it really does change how you actually interact with the game because you are stuck. You're trying to think of what am I going to do? How am I going to take this next turn? And you know, these neuropaths, while they are a little challenging, but you're starving for oxygen at the same time, so you are thematically having a more challenging time to actually take your turn. And I think that is really unique and very different inside of a board game world. I don't know of any other game that does that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The atmosphere for the game is by far the biggest positive, which I don't know what that sentence even really means, but I'm just saying clearly there's a lot of stuff put into this that is just supposed to be atmospheric. I agree. I'm actually really bad at holding my breath. I've honestly, I don't smoke. I don't drink. I used to exercise a lot. I genuinely think it's just that I have really bad back problems I have to see a chiropractor for, and I think there's just a lot of tension on my lungs throughout my whole chest area.
You should try smoking.
Huh?
You should try smoking.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
like practicing holding your breath.
And so I'm really bad at holding my breath, and I find that difficult. But the game, first of all, there's an interesting little push and pull of if you're bad at holding your breath, like me. Holding your breath makes the game feel really difficult, but using the sand time rolls makes it feel really easy. And me, for just personally, I would much rather have the game feel slightly more difficult than slightly too easy. I think that makes it more fun. The game also has a really interesting catch-up mechanic, if you want to call it that, to where if I'm taking really slow turns because I can't hold my breath and I'm slowly moving, and someone else runs ahead and finds the staircase, there's then a thing called a fast travel.
Yep.
To where instead of me having to move all of the traverse numbers, I just have to pull decision deck cards equal to the number of cards from me to that, as long as there's no enemies in between, no thralls in between. So it's just me basically drawing one decision card per tile instead of per number. And so that honestly fixes 90% of that problem. Like, it's really not bad. Plus, if you find a safe room or a really low search number and you just want to chill out for a bit until someone else finds the door, it's totally viable in this game. I talked about it previously, but I love this plot deck. I love the decisions. We hope that they make a slight quality of life change to where basically in the rule book it says draw the card and read it, but don't read ahead too far. And it's like, just say hand it to the person to your right and they read it. Like, why have that weird double rule that just says make sure you don't read too far? You know, it makes me think of like the Dead of Winter cards, you know, where it's like if someone does X, the crossroad cards, then take this card and read it.
Because you don't want anybody to meta the decision like, right, I better do this one.
You don't want to accidentally see a word in your peripheral, even like the word ladder on the bottom, and be like, oh, I kind of want to react differently now because of this. But yeah, I love the idea behind the decision deck, especially in a game where you're holding your breath. That's just a really interesting. This game is like, what you can do is pretty simple, pretty streamlined. It's just like, here's what you're doing on your turn. You're gonna move, you're gonna do this, or you're gonna like try to heal, right? But while holding your breath, trying to remember, like, one of my favorite things about the game is just a purely group thing. So another group might not do this, but before everyone's turn in the group that we've played with, there's the calm silence where the person's just like, just kind of focusing, and they'll be like, okay, I need to move 2, and then I need to search 3, and then I need to move 3, and then I need to try to traverse.
Okay, go.
And that is so cool and thematic. I love it. But anyway, before I talk for 8 years, you guys want to get some opinions?
I say the decision deck is like one of my favorite parts about it, like trying to flip those cards over, and it says to only use one hand, and like sometimes it's a little more difficult because you're trying to clear stuff out of the way as you're doing multiple rooms in a row, but just trying to use the one hand, flip them over, organize them, rearrange them. Like I really find that like intense, especially while you're trying to hold your breath and like you're starving for oxygen. You're trying to make these decisions and make all this stuff work as you're trying to get as much done on your turn as you can, you know. And then just like trying to search. I like how you can heal, but if you try to heal in the wrong areas, you can spawn more monsters. I wish maybe it was a little bit easier to fight back, because man, at the beginning, that first floor, we literally had a monster in every single room.
And I was the only person that started the game strong enough to fight back, and I went first, which instantly spawned a thrall, which hurt me enough to where I couldn't fight back. It was like, oh god.
Yeah. And the only way I got a knife was because someone stabbed me with it, and I was like, oh, a knife, and I pulled it out, and I had one. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, each of the decks are unique, so that's interesting. Each character, like all of their icons, are in different areas, so depending on who you are, you're going to have different amounts of search and different amounts of grit and whatnot, and that's interesting. The player age turn structure, I like having a breakdown of how the turn structure works, so that way you know how the game flows. And that's like a big thing, is like sometimes you're reading an instruction manual and you're like, okay, there's all these things on how I do things, but there's no real flow chart on how stuff is supposed to proceed as you're playing, and that really helped to kind of break it down.
I love that on the player aid, it literally says inhale and exhale too.
Yeah.
It doesn't even break it down to a phase. It just says inhale. Here's the things you do while inhaling.
And
exhale.
Yeah.
Very simple. I like it.
I like the unique meeples, right? They're not just like basic standards. They're all like individually shaped as like the monsters or your people. So that's kind of interesting instead of just like basic guys. It's super interesting. I like the plot cards are super cool. I would definitely go with the rule of handing the plot card to the next person. And it's super helpful as like while you're playing with people too, is to have somebody kind of help navigate the turns, because there's kind of so much going on. Like when you flip the new card, like somebody's doing the plot card for you, and like somebody calling out, okay, you have a search 3 and a move 4. So you like, you know, so you're rolling your search dice or you're flipping more cards to try to move, and helps kind of keep the game going along, and it is helpful.
Sure. Mike, you talked the most at the beginning, but now's your chance to talk.
No, you're fine. I think you guys did great covering the mechanics and what you liked about it, but I really want to talk about this art, because I know this isn't going to change, and this is just right up my alley. Like as soon as we agreed to do this preview, I started looking at the box art, and I'm like, okay, this guy's a metalhead.
That's what I was gonna say.
And sure enough, he is. Hence why I'm wearing the shirt that I am today. I told him I'd fit the theme. I love this style. It really encapsulates the theme that this game is going for. That rule book, these neural sequences, the kind of it's this gritty, dark, moldy, fungal world, and you have no idea what's going to happen on the next corner.
Yeah.
I also really like that if you get the deluxe, they actually include a soundtrack for this game, and it's got a really interesting kind of industrial, it comes in a cassette tape. There is actually a cassette in here, and I remember going, I have no way to play this, but there is a Bandcamp link in here. So, by the way, if you get the deluxe, this does come with it. It's got a solo mode as well, which looks kind of like a roll and write as well. We didn't discover that. But I thought the soundtrack was really cool. Very thematic,
Immersive,
kind of dirty industrial kind of sound.
Yeah, it's funny because you say dirty industrial, but it also has like a synth to it, too.
It definitely does.
So it's a very interesting combination that I found myself moving to a lot.
Very
while
cool
we're playing.
soundtrack.
This font is very metal too, like the little spiky spikes all over
Absolutely.
the words.
I mean,
love
if
it.
this doesn't scream death metal band logo, I don't know what does. And I just happen to really appreciate that as a metalhead myself. So love the world that this art and the theme creates.
I was talking to Bob about it. The theme also makes me think of like you're living in like the dirty alleyways of the Last of Us universe. Like you're not the heroes,
Okay.
you're not Joel. You're just a dude living on the street, and you're having to put up with the spore virus that's spreading out. Like it really made me like think of
Feel
that.
that,
You know, I mean,
yeah.
it's one of my favorite games, so of course it's always on my mind. but-
clickers.
yeah, this made me think of that though. But yeah, I mean, if people are looking for an atmospheric, I'll call it tile laying game, even though they're cards. I don't care. You're laying tiles. If people are looking for an atmospheric tile laying game with like this interesting, darker theme where you're prisoners, and again, the whole point, the black mold, right? That's why you're holding your breath. It's not just a gimmick. It's a gimmick, but sometimes gimmicks are awesome, and I like this gimmick. I really do.
I like the experiences that this has created already in just 2 games so far. So like I find myself pretty low on health. I'm like 2 tiles away from the exit, and my brain's telling me dart for the exit, but meanwhile I got other people, sinister people,
Don't
I
go
might
that way,
add,
don't
trying
go
to
that
talk me
way.
into going somewhere else so they can chuck rocks at me.
Okay.
Is that right, Wes?
My favorite part of this game is that when they're holding their breath and they're getting that, and I say, hey, go to the next room, because I'm hoping that they are going to go to the next room because it makes it easier for me to traverse into the next room.
Right.
So I'm constantly putting that like emotional suggestion in there. Okay, yeah, now you need 4 to go to the next room. And they did it almost every single
Now
time.
he tells us.
It was so great. And then, of course, there was someone who was almost about to leave, and I was a little worried because he had a few more pieces of
shiny
items than
rocks,
I did.
yeah.
So I chucked 3 rocks at him and killed him.
I had 2 nugs on me. Had I made it, I
would've won.
might have won.
Yeah, it was funny too because we're like, oh, I won't kill you. My Dan's like, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm not gonna kill you. He's like, all right. So he comes
I
back
knew
and he's
better.
like, here's 4 rocks. We're like, I got him.
So yeah, I mean, great stories you end up with when you're finished playing this, and that's what's great about it.
Well,
for
and that
sure.
goes into what you said earlier with when people are holding their breath, even when it's just for 30 seconds, you're like, I have a simple turn. The second someone starts holding their breath, their brain just starts working slightly differently, the way they're solving puzzles. And so when he says stuff like forward or traverse, your brain is trying to micromanage everything it's hearing, and it's like, oh yeah, forward to traverse, I can do that, and so you're almost, you're literally tricking them in their most desperate moment, and it's fantastic. It makes me think of, you said earlier, very unique. You've never seen a game do this.
Not like this.
I obviously agree. It makes me think of Nyctophobia. If you know Nyctophobia, we haven't had a chance to play it yet, but that's a game where everyone plays with their blindfolded.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And one person is a killer. They can see, and they're moving the people's hands around on a map, and the people are trying to escape by just communicating with their eyes closed of like, okay, I moved 3 spaces, and then there's a wall, and I have to turn right? And so this makes me think of that level of like, it's a gimmick, sure,
Immersiveness, yeah.
but it's so immersive, and
really
really an interesting way to get that mechanic in there. So yeah. Anyone have any kind of final things for people that might be looking at this video on Kickstarter? What are you thinking?
Yeah, this has got about 7 to 10 days left by the time this game is published, so there's still time to back it. Of course, you could late pledge it as well, but yeah, we definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. I have not seen any stretch goal stuff, so I'm really interested in seeing that. I'm kind of purposely blind right now to kind of see what's going in on that. So
Well, I can tell you there's some more characters coming out already. So
I just said no.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
there's daily reveals of extra characters that are coming out.
Okay.
and I guess that'll be my sign off is, Bob, you mentioned it earlier, but it's amazing how just having your little life bar have icons in different positions makes it feel like a second asymmetric power. It's almost weird because so my guy had all of his hearts towards the back. So for most of the game, I can heal like crazy in safe rooms, but my second health spot was an eyeball, meaning that once I took any damage, basically, I couldn't craft the rest of the game. To where Bob over here,
I was just kind of good all the way
crazy
around.
good at searching and
Yeah,
stuff like
I
that,
was,
right?
yeah.
But my guy also had like 4 or 5 extra health on his person, so I had a bunch of extra health too. And you really do feel that when you're playing, like because of how quickly you will take and lose damage in this game, you will quickly realize how useful and how terrible the positioning of your icons are. And I say that as a huge positive, but that's me. Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, we hope you enjoyed checking out Black Mold with us. If you're on the Kickstarter page, just click anywhere. I will say, self-promotion, I guess. We recently did a top 10 games we'd like to play on like Halloween, like stuff like a spooky games kind of thing. We had not played this yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would make my top 10 because I've played a lot of great horror games, but I would definitely consider it. I mean, it would be on my short
It'd
list
be on the
at
short
least,
list
for
for
sure.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're interested in that around this time, it was a smart Kickstarter date, I think, and we do have a video over there talk about our spooky Halloween games, but also check out everything around for Kickstarter. Meanwhile, guys, for the board game rundown, I've been Dan,
I was Bob.
I'm West.
Mike.
and this has been Black Mold. We hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to check it out.